Do you know the warm progress under the stars? Do you know we exist? Have you forgotten the keys to the kingdom? Have you been born yet, and are you alive? Let's reinvent the gods, all the myths of the ages. Celebrate symbols from deep elder forests. Have you forgotten the lessons of the ancient war? We need great golden copulations. The fathers are cackling in trees of the forest. Our mother is dead in the sea. You know we are being led to slaughters by placid admirals, and that fat, slow generals are getting obscene on young blood. You know we are ruled by TV. The moon is a dry blood beast. Guerrilla bands are rolling numbers in the next block of green vine, amassing for warfare on innocent herdsmen who are just dying. Oh, great creator of being, grant us one more hour to perform our art and perfect our lives. Moths and atheists are doubly divine and dying. We live, we die, and death not ends it. Journey we more into the nightmare, cling to life, our passion flower, cling to cunts and cocks of despair. We got our final vision by clap, Columbus's groin got filled with green death. I touched her thigh and death smiled. We have assembled inside this ancient and insane theater to propagate our lust for life and flee the swarming wisdom of the streets. The barns are stormed, the windows kept, and only one of all the rest to dance and save us with the divine mockery of words. Music inflames temperament. True kings' murderers are allowed to roam free. 1,000 magicians arise in the land. Where are the feasts we were promised? Where is the wine, the new wine, dying on the vine?
In the Circumcision, you say that you rightly pass for an atheist. Je passe à juste titre. Instead of just saying that you are an atheist. Now, why don't you just say, I am an atheist, instead of I rightly pass? Is it because you have some doubts about the distinction between atheism and belief in God, or some doubts about whether you are an atheist? I mean, suppose someone interpreted that to mean, I am to all appearances an atheist, but appearances can be deceiving. So don't be too sure, perhaps I am not.
I am not simply the one who says I. And on the other hand, I think that we may have some doubts about the distinction between atheism and belief in God. If the belief in God is not a culture of atheism, if it doesn't go through a number of atheistic steps, that is, not only the critique of idolatry, of all sorts of images in prayer, especially in prayer, but against the critique of ontotheology, the reappropriation of God in metaphysics, which, as Heidegger says, doesn't know anything like prayer or sacrifice, the ontotheology. So if one doesn't go as far as possible in the direction of atheism, one doesn't believe in God. So the true believers know that they run the risk, they have to run the risk of being radical atheist. Even Levinas says somewhere that he is in a certain way an atheist, because he doesn't understand God, he doesn't interpret God as an existing being. God is not an absolute being. So if you go through what we know under the name of negative theology, apophatic, philosophical criticism, and so on, and deconstruction, if we don't go as far as possible in the direction of this atheism, the belief in God is naive and totally inauthentic. Now, in order to be authentic, this is a word that I almost never use, but in order to be authentic, the belief in God must be exposed to the absolute doubt. And I know that the great mystics are experiencing this. They are experiencing the death of God, or the disappearance of God, or the non-existence of God, or God as being called as non-existent. I pray to someone who does not exist in the strict metaphysical meaning of existence, that is, to be present as an essence or a substance, ousia, and so on and so forth. When one thinks of epikeinates ousias according to Plato's and even Heidegger's terms, being beyond being, the good, in Plato's terms, being beyond being, epikeinates ousias. If I believe in what is beyond being, then I believe as an atheist in a certain way. Believing implies some atheism, however paradoxical it may sound. And I'm sure that the true believers know this better than others, that they experience atheism all the time, and this is part of their belief. So in this epoche, in this suspension of belief, suspension of the position of the existence of God, is in this epoche that faith appears. Is the only possibility is faith in this epoche. So when I say je passe à juste titre, I rightly pass for an atheist, I know that because of everything I've done so far in terms of, let's say, deconstruction and so on and so forth, I've given a number of signs of my being a non-believer in God in a certain way, an atheist. And nevertheless, although I confirm that it is right to say that I'm an atheist, I can't say myself I am an atheist as a position. Say, I know what I am this and nothing else, and I'm identical with myself as an atheist. I would never say, this would sound obscene, say I am. I wouldn't say I am an atheist, I wouldn't say I am a believer either. It's this statement which I find absolutely ridiculous. Say, I know that I am a believer. Who knows that? Who can affirm and confirm this? I am a believer. And who can say I'm an atheist? I just write such sentences. And that's the only thing I can say.
All hail the American night.
What was that? I don't know. Sounds like guns, thunder.
la minute, je voulais te mettre
Rainbow Bell, Rainbow Bell, Rainbow Bell, Rainbow Bell, Rainbow Bell.
Bird of prey, bird of prey, flying high, flying high, in the summer sky. Bird of prey, bird of prey, bird of prey, bird of prey, flying high, flying high, gently pass on by. Bird of prey, bird of prey, bird of prey, bird of prey, flying high, flying high. Am I going to die? Bird of prey, bird of prey, bird of prey, bird of prey, flying high, flying high. Take me on your flight.
I got my smile from the sunshine. I got my tears from the rain. I learned to dance when I saw a tiger prance, and the peacock taught me to be vain. A little owl in a tree so high, he taught me how to wink my eye. I learned to bill and coo from a turtle dove, and a grizzly bear taught me how to hug. But the guy that lived 2 caves from me, he taught me how to love.
Is everybody in? Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The ceremony is about to begin. Wake up! Is every number where it was?
capitalism will quite literally kill us. That's what our guest tonight argues in his latest book by traveling to and documenting life and the destruction of it in so-called sacrifice zones. Now, this includes the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, the city of Camden, New Jersey, the now leveled off mountains of West Virginia, and the migrant worker camps that resemble modern-day slavery in Southwest Florida. So why are these sacrifice zones? Well, because both human beings and the natural world have been used, then discarded, all to maximize earnings in a marketplace that rules without constraints. Now, perhaps these are the most shocking, in-your-face examples. They seem like extremes, but should they be used as a warning sign as to where the rest of the country and the world are headed? Or can it still be stopped? Joining me to discuss this is Chris Hedges, Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter and senior fellow at the Nation Institute and author of the new book, Days of Destruction, Days of Revolt. Chris, thanks for joining us tonight. And, I started there with one of your lines from the book about how corporate capitalism will quite literally kill us. Some people out there might say that that's a little dramatic. Why are they wrong?
Well, unfettered, unregulated capitalism is, as Karl Marx understood, a revolutionary force. It knows no limits. It commodifies everything. Human beings become commodities. The natural world becomes a commodity that it then exploits until exhaustion or collapse. And for that reason, once regulations and controls, legal controls are lifted, which is what's happened, there is built within this force a kind of self-annihilating quality, and we see that with climate change. That's why the environmental crisis is intimately twinned with the economic crisis. The only words they know is more. They serve quarterly profits, and if that means they trash the ecosystem on which the human species depends for life, if that means that they hollow out our countries as they are currently to create a global neo-feudalism, a world of masters and serfs, a world where the working class, in order to be competitive, has to be competitive with prison labor in China or sweatshop workers in Bangladesh who make 22 cents an hour. That is what, not only what they will do, that is what they are doing. So we went to those places where everything, everybody, the environment, the legal system was made to kneel before the marketplace because they started with them and now they're moving on for us.
Well, it's it's really heartbreaking and it's devastating to read about these locations as you went to. But I have a feeling that most Americans probably have no idea what it's like there. They have no idea that it's that bad. Because if you turn on TV, you're watching a reality show, you're just seeing a lot of excess thrown in your face, right? And so why is that? Why are these the kind of places that we like to ignore or maybe deliberately hide away?
Well, I mean, let's lay this at the feet of where it belongs, and that is a corporatized media system, which is all about generating profit and ratings, not about imparting news. They don't do journalism anymore. They do news. News is judged for its entertainment value solely. It's why we have leached into celebrity gossip as a species of news, or the tawdry or the salacious, or and that's true on the left and the right. MSNBC is as guilty of this as Fox News. They are essentially courtiers. They spin court gossip in different directions, but it's the same inanities. It's Mitt Romney's horse, or Tom Cruise's divorce, or Newt Gingrich's moon colonies. It's very hard to keep up. And those who are rendered destitute, and we're talking now significant portions of the United States now, are invisible. And that's why I did the book with the graphic illustrator Joe Sacco, who does this long-form journalism and then draws it out in books like Palestine, Safe Area Garage, Footnotes in Gaza, because the goal of the book was not only to tell the stories, but to make these people visible. And at certain points in the book, it actually flips into comic panels which give a filmic quality to people's life and can show visually the kind of devastation that we reported from. We are just seeing in the last few weeks this march of unfettered capitalism continue, this assault against the working class, the refusal to extend unemployment benefits for hundreds of thousands of American citizens, which means that many of them will lose their homes, go into bankruptcy. The Supreme Court decision to severely weaken public sector unions the refusal to fund the food stamp program, and remember 1 in 3 children in this country now depend on food stamps to eat. There's nothing left. There's nothing left within the formal mechanisms of power to protect us. And that's why what's happened in these sacrifice zones is so important, because as we reconfigure American society into an oligarchic elite, 3 or 4%, a managerial elite of about 12%, and then the rest of us are hanging on by our fingertips. This, by the way, is how totalitarian societies configure their economies. It's exactly what George Orwell wrote about in 1984, with most of the population being termed proles.
That's right. That's right. Well, since you brought it up too, I want to get your take on the healthcare ruling from the Supreme Court. I feel like so quickly the conversation, or maybe it was never even at that level to begin with, but it just seemed like it's digressed to a discussion over semantics and which politician wants to call it a penalty or a fee or a tax, and we've forgotten about the fact that our healthcare system is still far from being fixed or working properly.
Well, look, the so-called Obamacare, and this is a perfect example of a sterile and empty debate. This whole program was cooked up in the Heritage Foundation. It was first put into practice in 2006. By then Governor Mitt Romney. They took that Massachusetts plan. The pharmaceutical and insurance lobbyists authored 2,000 pages of the bill, included $447 billion in subsidies for the pharmaceutical and insurance industry, the equivalent of the bank bailout bill for those industries. They can still raise, well, they are, as anybody who has private insurance, as I do, will tell you, they are jacking up premiums almost monthly. They can raise co-payments. There's no protection if you get a chronic or severe illness. If you can't pay those premiums, you're out. That's why 1 million people a year in this country go bankrupt. 80% of those people, by the way, had insurance. And yet, we have this debate that there is no difference between Romney Care and Obamacare. It's all a carnival act. It's political theater. It doesn't matter which piece of legislation you're talking about. Corporations write it. They write the laws. They write the rules. There's a two-tiered system. There's one system for them, and there's another system for the rest of us. They are criminalizing dissent, as Glenn Greenwald just laid out, and they are criminalizing, or they're legalizing their own criminal activity in fraud. I mean, that's why nobody on Wall Street, except for Bernie Madoff, and that's because he stole from rich people, has gone to jail. I mean, it's absolutely transparent, and yet we're just awash in this very powerful system of corporate propaganda. I mean, the airwaves are just filled with lies. And skillfully done lies.
Let me just, for timing's sake, to interrupt you there. Transparent on one sense, in the fact that I think that we're finally starting to diagnose some of these issues. It's gotten to the point where you can't just ignore it anymore. It's become pretty in your face. But then what's interesting about this, and you write about this too, you bring up Hannah Arendt, is that rather than in the past where you might have a vicious leader, right, or just a dictator, a face that you can put on it, the corporate leadership is not, they're faceless, right? These aren't people we know. These are an invisible kind of power that's working in the background. And so how do you actually counter something like that? You point to the Occupy movement. You seem pretty hopeful about it. But in order to really, really counter the corporatization of America, do you need a revolution?
Well, you need a mass movement. All the correctives to American democracy came about through mass movements, not through, the leaders. They were pressured to respond. The last liberal president we had in this country was Richard Nixon, not because he was a liberal, but because he was frightened of movements. There's a great scene in Kissinger's memoirs, please don't go by the book, where the White House is surrounded by buses, huge anti-war demonstration. I think it's 71, and Nixon and Kissinger are standing at the window, and Nixon's going, Henry, they're going to break through the barricades and get us. Well, that's precisely where you want power, people in power to be. And our movements were broken in the name of anti-communism, and our liberal class was disemboweled. We were essentially left defenseless, and that's why I have been a supporter of the Occupy movement, because I think it's only through movements that we're going to regain any kind of power and begin to push back against this system. And if we don't, then we are going to live in what Sheldon Woolen calls a kind of inverted totalitarianism, a kind of corporate fascism, which is not classical fascism, partly for the reasons you pointed out, because it's faceless.
All right, well, we're going to find out more about what the Occupy movement is actually doing as they gather in Philadelphia next. But in the meantime, Chris, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and great book. Everyone out there should read it.
Thank you.
Come on, 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 come on. Yeah.
That's all. That's all.